What would your marriage be like if you knew this secret about marriage? Here's something that I learned while single. Marriage today can feel like a minefield. From endless arguments about money, parenting, or house chores, to ghosting each other emotionally after a long day, many couples are just trying to survive rather than thrive. But what if there was a better way? What if your marriage could reflect something deeper? A love that's built to last, rooted in something far greater than just feelings or convenience. The truth is, God's view of marriage isn't outdated or old-fashioned. It's actually the ultimate playbook for thriving relationships. And understanding His design isn't just about avoiding divorce. It's about creating a partnership full of trust, respect, joy, and love that mirrors His own covenant with us. I'm going to break down what it really means to follow God's blueprint for marriage and why understanding it can completely transform the way you love, communicate, and grow together. Now, when the Pharisees asked Jesus about divorce in Mark chapter 10, verse 12, they weren't really searching for truth. They were testing Him. But Jesus used their question to reveal something deeper, the divine purpose and covenant of marriage. Marriage was God's idea. Jesus reminded them, at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. The two will become one flesh, so they are no longer two, but one. This means marriage isn't a human intervention, it's God's design. It's not just about companionship or compatibility, it's about oneness, a spiritual, emotional, and physical union created by God Himself. Marriage was meant to reflect God's relationship with His people, a bond marked by love, faithfulness, and covenant. So what happens when you understand how God sees marriage? When you understand how God sees marriage, it does two things. It teaches you how God views marriage and reveals how deeply God loves us. God's definition of marriage teaches us about His love and how we should love each other in marriage. The relationship God has with us is a covenant relationship, and the relationship we should have with each other in marriage is also a covenant relationship. It's not merely a social or legal contract, but a spiritual covenant that mirrors the relationship between God and His people. In marriage, it means we both show up, we fight for each other, not against each other. We're building something together. We honor the covenant we made. We're choosing love, respect, and unity even when feelings fluctuate. It's saying, I'm not going anywhere when things get tough. It's saying, I choose you on the good days and the bad days. It's saying, I'm invested in this relationship and I'm willing to put in the work, and I have your back and you have mine. It's basically saying, you can rely on me and I can rely on you. A covenant is when two people make vows and promises that they swear not to break. We see the same type of promise in weddings today, where both the bride and the groom make vows before God. But what most people don't realize is that a covenant isn't only a formal, solemn, and binding agreement. It means that even if the other person breaks their part of the promise, you're bound to keep yours. If people truly understood this, the divorce rate would drop dramatically. When Jesus says, what God has joined together, let no one separate, He's showing that marriage is sacred and intended to be lifelong. That's why Jesus continues in verse 11 of Mark chapter 10 by saying, anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another man, she commits adultery. But what about those who say, what if I'm in a marriage that's abusive, toxic, or unhealthy? There's two responses to this question. Number one, that's where the heart issues come in. And number two, and why it's so important to let God be the one who joins us together in the first place. Let's break it down. If we love each other the way Christ loves the church, there will be no abuse, toxicity, or unhealthiness in marriage. And if we allow God to bring, show, or introduce us to our spouse, we won't end up with someone who is abusive or destructive. It starts with a choice. The choice to allow an all-knowing, wise, and loving God who sees a future and knows our hearts to be our matchmaker. When we trust Him to lead us to the right person, we avoid heartbreak and confusion later. Some may say, well, God put us together. But is that really true? The evidence is in the fruit. Knowing God's nature tells us that He will never give you something that isn't good, excellent, or beneficial. That's just not His character. Any marriage where both people waited on God and allowed Him to bring them together, though it may still have disagreements because we're human, will not be abusive or dangerous. It won't destroy your health, peace, or sanity. A relationship joined by God will bear the fruit of peace, love, forgiveness, and grace, not fear or pain. Certificate of divorce was never God's ideal. Moses allowed divorce, but Jesus explained why. It was because your hearts were hard that Moses wrote you this law. In other words, God permitted it because of human sin, selfishness, and hardened hearts, not because it was ever His will. Divorce was a way to protect women in a broken society, but it also reflected humanity's failure to love as God intended. If men and women truly understood the divine purpose of marriage as a covenant of love, unity, and service, and Christ's relationship with the church, divorce wouldn't even be part of the conversation. Marriage isn't about personal fulfillment or convenience. It's about oneness, commitment, and sacrificial love. When that purpose is understood and embraced, love becomes patient and forgiving. Conflicts are resolved through grace, understanding, and patience, not escape. The focus shifts from what can I get to how can I reflect God's love in each moment. Jesus restores love to its original glory. When Jesus points back to the beginning, He wasn't just making a legal argument. He was calling people to return to God's original design. He was saying, you've used Moses' law to justify your brokenness, but I came to restore what was lost. The issue isn't just divorce, it's the condition of the heart. If hearts are softened and aligned with God's will, the true purpose of marriage, unity, love, and covenant will prevail. Once we understand the why of marriage, it will transform the way we live in marriage. The certificate of divorce was man's way of ending what God meant to be unbreakable. But when hearts understand God's design for marriage, the need for such a document as divorce disappears.